Okay. Chapter 13. So we ended a section from chapter 7 to 12, which is called Bhakti. That is actually the Bhakti, the most important path. So as we know, Bhagavad Gita is divided into 18 chapters. Okay. First six chapters, chapter 1 to 6, primarily focus on Karma Yoga. How we can uh, how we can do the service of God through the medium of karma. Karma is most predominant. If you see, there were two chapters, Karma Yoga and then Karma Yoga Action in Krishna Consciousness. Then the chapters, which are the most important chapters, from chapter 7 to 12, which you just did, that is actually the Bhakti. Krishna explains the Bhakti only. And last chapters, which is chapter 13 to 18, are Gyan Yoga actually. And you will see these chapters are little bit chapters which are the more little bit like not that very easy to understand if you do by yourself. So that's where we need to do it in a class format, because Gyan and yoga, when it comes, there are so many terms here which may not be self-explanatory. But again, the purpose of Gyan Yoga is also to uh, facilitate it to practice Bhakti Yoga. So don't think that this Gyan section is something for Gyanis. The purpose of this part of Gyan Yoga is to use it in to better understand our understanding of Bhakti. Okay. So in truth, the entire Bhagavad Gita is Bhakti, but first six chapters discuss how to achieve Bhakti through one's actions or work, which is Karma Yoga. Then last six chapters discuss how to achieve bhakti through knowledge. Okay, that's why knowledge means Gyan. So Gyan Yoga. And middle six chapters are actually bhakti itself. That is how it's divided. Okay. So understanding the connection between the bhakti and Gyan section will help reveal why knowledge is also equally important to better understand the finer aspects of bhakti. Because unless we don't know what is recommended, what is favorable for practicing bhakti and what is not favorable, then we may be doing something which is unfavorable, and just because out of ignorance, and then that may hamper our devotional journey. Okay. So without the touch of bhakti, it says that both karma and jnana are useless. Okay. So that is the reason why discussion of bhakti comes in middle of Bhagavad Gita. Like something which is precious, it is protected from both sides. So the bhakti section is protected from why it's in the middle, because it's protected by karma and jnana. And the most important chapter, which is chapter 9, is right in between, protected by all other chapters. Okay, so again, we start chapter 13. And again, this whole chapter talks about, in the first verse itself, Arjun will ask 6 questions to Lord Krishna. And the chapter is titled, if you see, the nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. So nature means Prakriti, enjoyer, who is the enjoyer of this, and what is the consciousness means Chetna, consciousness. Enjoyer, we will understand who is the enjoyer in this context. Okay, Purusha. So let's read the verses. I think you all of have Bhagavad Gita in front of you, right? Let me open mine also.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
Prabhuji, if you wish, I can also share a screen.
Yeah, I think we can read from book.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe Venkat Prabhu, you can read first two Sanskrit. Text 1 and 2 are together, where Arjun Uvacha.
Yes, sir. Hare Krishna. Arjuna Vacha Prakritim Purusham Cheva Kshetram Kshetrajnam Eva Cha Etat Veditum Ichchami ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं च केशव श्रीभगवानुवाच इदं शरीरं कौन्तेय क्षेत्रम् इति अभिद्यते एतत् यो वेति तं प्रभुः क्षेत्रज्ञ इति तद्विदः.
Translation
Translation.
also.
Arjuna said, "O my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field, and the knower of the field, and of the knowledge, and the object of knowledge." The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field."
Just hold here. Okay. So this entire chapter 13 is just based on these 6 questions, and you should know the Sanskrit terms of these 6. That may also come from your exam, and if you see your what you call Purva Swadhyay, these are there. So let's read those terms again. Arjuna Vacha Prakritim. Prakriti, those who understand Prakriti, right? What is the meaning? Nature, right? Prakriti means nature. That is the first. So Krishna, Arjun says, I wish to know what is Prakriti, what is nature. Second is Purusha. Purusha means who is the Purusha? Enjoyer. Third, he says Kshetra. Kshetra, we know it's again Hindi term or Sanskrit term. Kshetra means field. Any big field, we say Kshetra. Hockey field, hockey Kshetra. Cricket field, cricket Kshetra. Kshetra. I'm just telling you the literal meaning. Then we discuss what is the meaning in this context. So field, and Kshetragna means the knower of the field. Gna means the one Jnani, like it comes from the word Gyan, Jnani. The knower of something is called Kshetragna, so knower of the field. And then it says Jnanam means knowledge. Okay. Jnanam means knowledge. So, and last, Niyam. Niyam, Jnana is knowledge, Niyam is object of knowledge. So he asked, what is Prakriti? What is material nature? Who is Purusha? Who is the enjoyer of that material nature? What is Kshetra? What is the field in which one act within the material world? What is the field? And Kshetragna, who is that who experiences the field of actions? Who is the knower of the field? Right? And Gnana means what is the knowledge and process of acquiring knowledge. And Gnaya means what is actually the object of knowledge. So these are all philosophical questions. That's why this section is called Gyan Yoga. Like, and if I tell the field is actually the body. We'll discuss more. But if you see here, these are not straightforward questions like field, knower of the field, Purusha, Niyam. That's why this requires a little bit more focus and more, what do you call? If you don't understand, then just ask me again. Because unless these things are not clear in right here, the whole chapter 13 will not be clear because these terms will keep again and again. Six terms are the key in this chapter 13. Okay, Krishna will only talk about all these things. So Bhagavad Gita talks about 5 subject matters. Anyone knows what are those 5 subject matters? Should know. 5 main things of Bhagavad Gita.
Kala, Prakriti.
So let's go one by one. Kala, yes. That's first. Kal means time. Next, second,
Prakriti.
Prakriti, nature. So this chapter talks about that nature. Third,
Bhagavan.
Bhagwan, Ishwar, yes. Fourth,
Karma,
Jiva.
Jiva and Karma.
Jiva and Karma. These are the 5 themes or 5 subject matters of Bhagavad Gita. And if you see in our entire existence, we are only dealing with these 5 things. We as Jiva, Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, he is Ishvara, and then we are interacting with Prakriti, nature, and the modes of material nature, they have impact on us. And then we are doing action, karma, and then ultimately everything is being done under the supervision of Kal, time. Okay, so this chapter talks about the nature, which is Prakriti, and enjoyer. Enjoyer is the Purusha, who is the enjoyer. and also the consciousness. The chapter title is consciousness, but talks about these things, 6 things. Okay, so now I will want you to read only the first paragraph of this verse so that we understand these terms now more, what Prabhupada has to say on these terms. So, Venkat Prabhu, you can read now the purport, but only the first paragraph.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada teacher. Arjuna was inquisitive about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, Kshetra, the field, Kshetrajna, its knower, and the unknowledge and the object of knowledge. When he inquired about all this, Krishna said that this body is called the field, and that one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. This
Here,
body,
just hold here. So here you see two things are Prabhupada answers, but Krishna will answer. So body is called the field. So like our body, which we are using, this is the field. And the knower of the field is we, which is the soul, right? So we are the knower of this body. That is one knower. And other knower is the super soul. Bhagwan also is sitting in this body. So he is the second knower. So there are two knowers of this field or two Kshetragnas. One is we, as in soul. And so we have been given this body to play in this material world. Think in that way. So, right? So these bodies are field. Okay, continue.
this body is the field of activity for the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul is entrapped in material existence, and he attempts to lord it over material nature. And so, according to his capacity to dominate material nature, he gets a field of activity. That field of activity is the body. And what is the body? The body is made of senses. The conditioned soul wants to enjoy sense gratification, and according to his capacity to enjoy sense gratification, he is offered a body or field of activity. Therefore, the body is called Kshetra or the field of activity for the conditioned soul. Now, the person who should not identify himself with the body is called Kshetrajna, the knower of the field. It is not very difficult to understand the difference between the field and its knower. The body and the knower of the body. Any person can consider that from childhood to old age he undergoes many changes of body and yet still one person remaining. Thus, there is a difference between the knower of the field of activities and the actual field of activities. A living conditioned soul can thus understand he is different from the body. It is described in the beginning, Dehi Nosmin, that the living entity is within the body and the body is changing, and that the body is changing from childhood to boyhood, and from boyhood to youth, and from youth to old age. And the person who owns the body knows that the body is changing. The owner is distinctly Kshetrajna. Sometimes we think I am happy, I am a man, I am a woman, I am a dog, I am a cat. These are bodily designations of the knower, but the knower is different from the body. Although we may use many articles, our clothes, etc., we know that we are different from things used. Similarly, we also understand by a little contemplation that we are different from the body. I or you or anyone else who owns the body is called Kshetrajna, the knower of the field of activities, and the body is called Kshetra, the field of activities itself.
So, yes. So, in this section, we understand two things, I think. Kshetra and Kshetragna are answered, right? So, what is Kshetra? What is the field?
Our body.
The
Our
body,
body.
Body is the field. And Kshetragna means
the knower of the body.
the knower of the field, meaning the knower of the body. So, who is the knower of the body?
The soul.
Soul. So, in simple terms, this is talking about body and the soul. You already have discussed this in the past, first 6 chapters. There was second chapter talks elaborately about soul and body. So we all understand, right? And we are the soul, and so we are the knower of this body, and we are the primary knower of this body, and the field is body. So two questions are kind of answered in out of 6 questions. Lord Krishna answers two things, that this body is the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field or Kshetragna. Definitely, I think from your exam perspective also, this may come, these technical terms will come. Kshetra, Kshetragna, what is Kshetra, what is Kshetragna? Because this is the key of this chapter 13. Okay, so now I'll ask one question. In this body, we also had certain bacteria, right? Which helps in the digestion of food and other ways. So are there only one soul or there are many souls within this body? What is the answer?
One soul.
Many souls in it.
Hmm? What do you think?
Many souls in the body, Prabhu.
So many
Prab-
souls are there in the body.
Yes, Prabhuji, there are many souls, but there is only one jiva.
Mhm. So then what are the other souls?
Would it be that they are also souls, but within their own field? So if we
Yeah.
were to go back in a microscopic view,
Yes.
if we are itself the field and we are the knower of the field, and
Yes.
we are within Prakriti,
Yes.
their Prakriti is within our body, they are also soul,
Yeah.
but they are also the knower of only their field.
Their
And
field. Yes. Yeah, that's true. So see, this is how it is. Yes, you're right. So this is the whole body. So we are the soul. So we are the primary occupier of this body and this field of activity. So we are the primary owner. But within our body, there are other living entities, like as Prabhu says, if you zoom it with a microscopic, you will find so many bacteria. Each bacteria has some life in it, like soul. So, but they are not the primary occupier of this body. They are subsisting on our body, like on our thing. So they only knows only about their this thing and their consciousness is weak. But they are also Prabhu, Abhilash Prabhu, they are also Jiva. They also fall under Jiva. That anything which is soul covered with the material body is Jiva, Tattva. So, but we are the primary occupier of this body. They are not the primary, they are the secondary occupier, but they are also getting their what you call nutrition or whatever they need to sustain from this body itself. They are also deriving the energy from their bacteria and all, but I think they keep growing and keep dying. We don't know what's going inside. But the point I'm saying is think of this body as a big condo, like a big condo building. Now we are the main owner of that, and then other small living entities also have their own rooms within this big condo building. So it's a big condo building being occupied by different living entities, but we are the primary living entity of this. All others are just secondary. And besides that, there is the super soul who provide this whole body for us under the supervision of nature based on our past karmas and what we want to do with this body, what we want to do with this field to play in this. Okay. So that is the whole role of nature, that nature works under the direction of super soul and facilitates uh, facilitates our action using this body. For example, if someone we have seen like someone at the time of death uh, is so fond of eating non-vegetarian food, there is every chance, and if he's thinking about that at the time of leaving, there is every chance he may get the body of tiger or one wild animal which is very fond of eating non-vegetarian food, because nature will fulfill his desire by giving him that suitable kind of body. So criteria to decide what body one gets is according to the capacity to dominate, like Prabhupada says, it's according to the capacity to dominate material nature and according to the capacity to enjoy sense gratification, one gets a particular body to function accordingly. That is the normal ways how it works. And why does we get this field? Because soul is entrapped in this material existence because his attempts to lord it over the material nature. That's why we get this material body, because all of us have this tendency to lord it over the material nature. So, okay, next, let's go. Any questions on this? So just we understand that in this first verse, Arjun asked about 6 questions, 6 technical terms. Krishna answers 2 of them. That Kshetra means body, Kshetragna means knower of the body, which is the soul, which is we. Those 2 questions are answered. Okay, let's go to third text. So maybe someone else can read. You can take turns. Who wants to volunteer?
I can read them.
Okay, yeah, read the Sanskrit and translation, and then I'll let you know about the purport also. Yeah.
क्षेत्रज्ञां चापि मां विद्धि सर्वक्षेत्रेषु भारत क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञायोर्ज्ञानं यत्तज्ज्ञानं मतं मम. Translation. O sign of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies. And to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. This is my opinion. Purport also come?
Yes, read. Yeah, read. I'll tell you when to stop, but keep reading.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. While discussing the subject of the body and the knower of the body, the soul and the super soul, we shall find 3 different topics of study: the law, the living entity, and matter. In every field of activities, in every body, there are 2 souls, the individual soul and the super soul. Because the super soul is the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Krishna says, I am also the knower, but I am not the individual knower of the body. I am the super knower. I am present in every body as the Paramatma or super soul. One who studies the subject matter of the field of activity and the knower of the field very minutely, in terms of this Bhagavad Gita, can attain to knowledge. The Lord says, I am the knower of the field of activities in every individual body. The individual may be the knower of his own body, but he is not the knower of other body. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present as the super soul in all bodies, knows everything about all bodies. He knows all the different bodies of all various species of life. A citizen may know everything about his patch of land, but the king knows not only his palace, but all the properties possessed by the individual citizens. Similarly, one may be the proprietor of the body individually, but the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of all bodies. The
Just
king
stop
is
here. Just stop here. Okay. So let's just read what is there in this. So verse 3 says that you should understand that I am also the knower in all the bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. So again, in this one, Lord Krishna adds some additional details to the Kshetragna part. So he says in first verse that soul is the Kshetragna, and he says there is additional Kshetragna, which is me, because I am also the super soul, and I also know about the body or the field. So I am also the knower in all the bodies. So that's the first line in Sanskrit. Is Kshetragnam cha api mam vidhi. Kshetragna means knower of the field, cha means also, api means certainly, mam means me, vidhi means no. So I am also the knower of this field. Okay, so there are 2 knowers now. One is soul and other is super soul. Both knows. And then further, Prabhupada explains the difference between soul and super soul, which we know that soul only knows about our own body. I can only tell what's going on inside my body. I cannot tell what's going on inside Abhiram Prabhu's body or Ilesh Prabhu body, right? You cannot tell what's going on in their mind. But Krishna, being the super soul, he he is the knower of all the living entities. He knows what's exactly going on inside each body. So he's the knower of all the fields, entire creation. No, okay, that is the difference. So he's cognizant of everyone's body. So he's the super soul. That's why his name is like it's, and that is one of his, Prabhupada says, plenary expansion. of Krishna. Okay, that super soul. Plenary means same potency as Lord Krishna and expansion, one of the expansions of Lord Krishna. So the super soul just knows about all the fields of activities in every individual body. Okay, this is okay, right? If anyone has any questions or still not clear, let me know, because I know this chapter is a little bit tough because it falls under Gyan Yoga and there are all technical terms, but we can repeat as many times as possible as one needs to understand. Okay, so and the example is given that in a big kingdom, king is the original proprietor of the kingdom and citizen is the secondary proprietor. Similarly, the Lord is like a king. He is the original proprietor of all the bodies, and we are the temporary proprietor of this body, like a normal citizen. Okay, so that is another example or analogy which Prabhupada gives to understand this concept about Lord being the another knower. Okay, and supreme proprietor, he's also the supreme controller of all the senses. That's why one of his name is Rishikesh, and the soul is fallible. Fallible means it can fall down, and Lord super soul is infallible. One is superior, super soul is superior. Other one is subordinate. It is under the ordination. Subordinate means it's under the control of super soul. And then also Krishna in this third verse explains the definition of what is knowledge. He says that to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. Okay, so knowledge means one who understands this body and the knower of this body. Like basically the one who understands the difference between body and soul and acts on that platform is the one who is knowledgeable. Very minutely one understand. That is the definition of knowledge as per this. To study the subject matter of field of activity, which is body, and the knower of the field, which is soul, very minutely is. So you can underline the second paragraph of this verse is defines what is the knowledge. Okay. Okay, let me see.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
But I think you previously answered, but super soul, uh, like, is only one in the body, right? Even the
Yes.
many individual souls are there.
Right.
So that means whatever the
So super soul, as I was telling, right? I was just explaining that many individual souls, because those are all small cell. But each in their body, the small body, also there is one super soul, which is sitting with them, with that soul. Understand, within this, like consider as a big condo building. So you will have your home, you are the primary occupier of this body, but there are small bacteria which is also having soul and then super soul also to guide them in their path of in their path towards traversing this material. So,
okay.
but this verse or Prabhupada does not explain that aspect. Prabhupada says there is one super soul and one soul, but that is a primary. But he says the super soul is present in all the bodies and knows everything about all bodies. Yeah. Okay. And so that's about it. Okay, so okay, now I was just want in second paragraph, the last paragraph which is there, just read from here. One has to understand the position of Prakriti, Purusha, and Ishvara. Who wants to read, or I can read? Let me read. So I am reading from. If you are reading the book 532, last paragraph, somewhere in between, It says one has to understand the position of Prakriti, which is nature, Purusha, the enjoyer of nature, and Ishvara, the knower who dominates or controls the nature and individual soul. One should not confuse the three in their different capacities. One should not confuse the painter, the painting, and the easel. So this material world, which is the field of activities, is nature, and the enjoyer of nature is the living entity, and above them both is the supreme controller, the personality of Godhead. And then it talks about the verse from Shvetashvar Upanishad, Bhokta Bhogyam Preritaram Cha Matval Sarvam Proktram Trividham Brahman Etat. There are three Brahman conceptions. Prakriti is Brahman as the field of activities, and the Jiva is also Brahman and is trying to control the material nature. And the controller of both of them is also Brahman, but he's the factual controller. Okay. So this is more going into the Gyan part. Like, so Brahman is saying there are three conceptions of Brahman. One is Prakriti is also known as Brahman because it's the field of activities. It's the basically you can say the playground where the uh, jiva or all the jivas are playing. And jiva, which is living entity, is also Brahman. It's trying to control that material nature. And controller of both of them is, which is a supreme lord, is also called Brahman. Okay, that's what it says. But he's the actual controller. Like Jiva is trying to control, but he's not the actual controller. Supreme personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, and his expansion super soul is the factual controller.
This would be a good multiple choice question.
Yeah. So it could be, it can come match what is Brahman. So
Yeah.
nature is also referred as Brahman, Jiva of Brahman, and super soul also Brahman. So three what you call expansion or three definitions of Brahman. Okay. Purusha is the enjoyer of the nature, which is the we'll discuss more on that. It's the Jiva only, Purusha, enjoyer of the nature. Okay, so let's go to verse 4. Who wants to read verse 4?
Prabhuji, I can
Yes,
read, Prabhuji.
yes. Go ahead and read.
Verse 4, chapter 13, verse 4, text 4. Tat kshetram yacha yadraksha yadvikari yatascha yat sachayo yat prabhavascha tat samashena me shranu. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Now, please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are when it is produced. It should be when, right? Or hence. Not sure.
No,
Whence?
whence,
Right?
Prabhuji, whence?
It is when.
Also.
Oh, whence is sorry. Whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are.
Read the purport also. Full. It's full only.
Purport: the Lord is described the field of activities and the knower of the field of activities in their constitutional positions. One has to know how this body is constituted, the materials of which this body is made, under whose control this body is working, how the changes are taking place, where from changes are coming, what the causes are, what the reasons are, what the ultimate goal of the individual soul is, and what the actual form of the individual soul is. One should also know the distinction between the individual living soul and the super soul, their different influences, their potentials, etc. One just has to understand this Bhagavad Gita directly from the description given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all this will be clarified. But one should be careful not to consider the Supreme Personality of Godhead in everybody to be one with the individual soul, the Jiva. This is something like equating the potent with the impotent. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So now Lord Krishna is further going one step further and describing that one should know the description of the field of activity and how it is constituted. Basically, field of activity is what? Again, what is the field of activity?
It is the body.
Body. So just replace wherever you see field of activity, think it is body. Because here throughout the chapter, instead of saying body, it will be referred as field of activity. So he's saying basically here my brief description of this body. So he's in further verses will say how this body is constituted. What are the changes in the body? We all know the changes. It goes from there are 6 changes which happens in the body. We will read further. Also in Sanskrit called Shad Vikar. Jiva Tattva has those Shad Vikars. Anything which has that Shad Vikar that falls under the Jiva category. Okay. 6 changes. And then when it's produced, and then obviously what is who that knower of the field of activity is and what his influences are. So this is all will be described in verses from 13.6 to 13.18. All these aspects like how the body is constituted. So we know there are, we'll discuss further, but 13.6 and 7 will explain how body is constituted. Then 13.7 and 13 will say what changes body goes and when, where the body is produced. All these questions will be answered. This is kind of an opening verse to for next 5 to 6 verses. Okay. Okay, let's go to verse number 5. No, let me see. How are you finding this? Are you able to understand? I'm just asking again and again because this is little bit, what you call, not that straightforward, but let me know if you are not able to understand, because then we have to, whatever you're not able to understand, we have to discuss that again. So far, we discussed 3 terms. Field of activities, knower of field of activities, and then what is the knowledge? Fifth, who will read the 5th one?
I can read the. I can read.
Okay, yes. Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतं छन्दोर्भिर्विविध पृथक् ब्रह्मसूत्रापदैश्चैव हेतुं मा बुद्धिर्विनिश्चिता. Translation: that knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect.
Yes, go ahead, Mataji, read the first paragraph.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the highest authority in explaining this knowledge. Still, as a matter of course, learned scholars and standard authorities always give evidence from previous authorities. Krishna is explaining the most controversial point regarding the duality and non-duality of the soul and the super soul by referring to a scripture, the Vedanta, which is accepted as authority. First, he says, this is according to different sages. As far as the sages are concerned, besides himself, Vyasdeva, the author of the Vedanta Sutra, is a great sage, and in the Vedanta Sutra, duality is perfectly explained. And Vasudeva's father, Parashar, is also a great sage, and he writes in his book of religiosity, Aham Tavam Cha Tat Tatyanya, I don't know, Tatyanya. We, you, I, and the various other living entities are all transcendental, although in material bodies. Now we are fallen way, into the ways of 3 modes of material nature according to our different karma. As such, some are on higher level levels and some are in lower nature. The the higher and lower nature exist due to ignorance and are being manifested in an infinite number of living entities. But the supersoul, which is infallible, is uncontaminated by the three qualities of nature and is transcendental. Similarly, in the original Vedas, a distinction between the soul and the supersoul and the body is made specially in Katha Upanishad. There are many great sages who have explained this, and Parashar is considered principal among them.
Yeah, just hold here. So basically, this verse is just talking about the that Krishna is giving that example of how the previous sages used to give evidence from past authorities and their way of how learned scholars and standard authority works. So he's saying this knower of the field of, I'm reading the translation again, that knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities basically says that knowledge of field of activities is body and the knower of the activity is soul. The knowledge of body and the soul is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. So this topic has been described by various sages in various writings. And Chandobhir thing is basically, it is specially presented in Vedant Sutra with all reasoning as to the cause and effect. So we don't need to go to too much detail. We all understand, but basically the ones who are after philosophical reasoning, they go in detail with all the reasoning and cause and effect. And this Vedant Sutra, Vedant, so we know that Vedant Sutra is also compiled by Vyasdev. Like there is huge Vedant. So Vedas are huge. Sutra is something you can say which he summarizes the entire Vedic or Vedas into the sutras, right? Vedanta Sutra. So in Vedanta Sutra also, the difference between the body and the soul is explicitly mentioned. And the the previous scholar, they used to give evidence from these past authorities like from Vedanta Sutra to put their point forward. Okay, so there is nothing new being told. It's all says that you, I, and all living entities. Somewhere it says we. We means you, I, and all the various living entities. They are all transcendental, although in material bodies, that we all understand. And every one of us are all as a soul transcendental, but we are encaged in these material bodies. That is our current position. And we have fallen into the three modes of material nature. According to karma, some are higher and some are lower. So it is all due to ignorance. So nothing new being told in this verse, just explains further from Vedanta Sutra perspective about the body and the soul. Okay. The new thing in this verse is what is it? Okay. So next, I want to read from the continue from the word. The word Chandobihi refers to various Vedic literatures. Who wants to read from that? Or you can continue, Mataji. Sida Sevika Mataji. Just
Okay,
continue.
Prabhuji. The word Chandobi refers to the various Vedic literatures. The Tritiya Upanishad, for example, which is a branch of Yajurveda, describes nature, the living entity, and the supreme personality of Godhead. As stated before, Kshetra is the field of activities, and there are two kinds of Kshetragyan, the, the, indi, the individual living entity and the supreme living entity. As stated in the Tritiya Upanishad, Brahm
Cham.
Pacham Parashitaha. There is a manifestation of the Supreme Lord's energy known as Annamaya. Annamaya depends upon field of existence.
Food for
This is
existence.
this food of existence. This is a materialistic realization of the Supreme. Then in pranamaya, after realizing the supreme absolute truth in food, one can realize the absolute truth in the living symptoms or life forms. In Gyanmaya, Gyanmaya realization extending beyond the living symptoms of to the point of thinking, feeling, and willing. Then there is Brahman realization called Vijnanmaya, in which the living entity's mind and life symptoms are distinguished from the living entity himself. The next and the next and supreme stage is Anandamaya, realization of the all blissful nature. Thus, there are 5 stages of Brahman realization, which are called Brahman Pacham. Out of these, of first three, Annamaya, Pranmaya, and Gyanmaya, involve the fields of activities of the living entities. Transcendental Transcendental to all these field of activities is the Supreme Lord, who is called Anandamaya. The Vedanta Sutra also describes the Supreme by saying Anandamaya Bhu- Bhaya, Bhaya Sat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is by nature full of joy. To enjoy his transcendental bliss, he expands into Vijnanmaya, Pranmaya, Gyanmaya, and Anandmaya. In the field of activities, the living entity is considered to be the enjoyer, and different from him is Anandamaya. That means that that if the living entity decide to enjoy in dovetailing himself with the Anandmaya, then he becomes perfect. This is the real picture of the Supreme Lord as the supreme knower of the field, the living entity as the subordinate knower, and the nature of the field of activities. One has to search for this truth in the Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra.
Hold here. Yeah. So this is going into the what you call little step further. Basically, there is a Upanishad called Taittiriya Upanishad, and in that there are 5 stages of Brahman realization. That is what is called Brahma Pucham Pratishtha. Okay, Taittiriya Upanishad 2.9, sorry, 2.5.1 explains. So there are 5 stages, which is called here Pran Maya, Gyan Maya, Annamaya, Pranmaya, Gyanmaya, Vigyanmaya, Anandamaya. So these are 5 stages of realization. And like our Gurukuls in Vedic ways, they used to basically nourish these stages. Even the one which we have here, the Gurukul being run by Toronto, they work on this like Pranmaya, Annamaya. So Annamaya just literally Ann means food. Maya means the realization, like, so when this is the consciousness of young child, right? When someone is born, uh, he when he's hungry, he becomes satisfied by eating the food. Like a small baby, let's say 2 3 years old, 2 3 days old baby, only thing he requires at that stage is food, like in terms of milk. Like you cannot explain gyan at that stage to that. So this is the first step in realization, which is the consciousness of a young child or even a amoeba. They just need food, annamaya. So annamaya is food, just realizing that food is the supreme object of realization. So their realization is the food. They are deriving all the pleasure, everything, all anand from just eating the food at that. That is the consciousness, annamaya, right? The beginning one. Uh, so let me see here where it says annamaya. Dependence, yeah, just underline that. Annamaya means dependence upon food for existence. This is the materialistic realization of the Supreme. Okay, understood this part, this terminology, Annamaya. This is basically considering food, dependence upon food for existence, and food is the, at this conscious stage of consciousness, is that food is the object, supreme object of realization. Like you cannot think beyond food. you will not understand Gyan and Vigyan and all that higher stages. So this is the initial stage of a living entity when one is born as a child, young child, or even animals also will have this realization, Annamaya, because they also depend on food. So their realization is food, food. Then comes Pranmaya, where realizing the supreme truth in living symptoms or life forms. So one seeks to preserve his life, right? One has, like, if you see, when a baby grows little older, let's say 3 4 years, he will have, now you will see the symptoms Pranmaya. Like if you try to harm the baby, he will try to defend. So he now value his life. He get this consciousness that his life is precious. That is living symptoms or life forms. And this is also there in all the living entities. Animals also have this behavior. If you try to attack an animal, it will try to defend. So pranmaya. So they understand pran meaning the living symptoms is something which is precious, and they realize the absolute truth in living symptoms of life forms. That is a pranmaya, living symptoms of life forms. Okay, then comes Gyanmaya. Gyanmaya means realization to the point of thinking, feeling, and willing. Okay, so at that stage, one appreciates the subtle interaction of mind, intelligence, emotions, all these things. So it goes beyond just the living symptoms to point of thinking, feeling, and willing. So you start thinking, you will have your own opinion, you will have your own feelings, all these things. This is Gyanmaya, like the stage when a child goes to a school and starts learning. So he will develop this Gyanmaya. Okay, he will develop Gyan. That's why it says, like in Vedic times, they will first focus on only first two things, on food and this thing. For first 4 5 years, they will not make child study anything, because he does not have that inherent consciousness to understand or grasp that. So Gyanmaya stage, his realization goes beyond just thinking about the food and life, and it goes in the point of thinking, feeling, and willing. Like he will have his own thinking and feeling and all those things. He will reveal his mind to parents. So this is Gyanmaya stage. Okay, then comes Vigyanmaya. So at the Vigyan, the difference between Gyan and Vigyan is, at the Vigyanmaya stage, it's a realization when the living entity, mind and life symptoms are distinguished from living entity himself. Like the living entity understand that his mind and life symptoms are, he's not the basically his mind and life, like he's not the body, he's the soul. That understanding is Vigyanmaya, where the living entity understands that this is the body which is separate from soul, that I am not this body, I am soul. That is Vigyanmaya stage. And then Anandamaya is the topmost stage, where one understands even the distinction between self and the supreme self. Like he understands that I am this soul, this body is given to me to for a higher purpose, to serve the supreme self, to serve the super soul, which is Lord Krishna. And he derives the pleasure in that blissful, loving relationship with Lord Krishna. That's why it's called Anandamaya stage, supreme stage of realization of all blissful nature. Okay, so these are the 5 different realization from Brahman. I don't know whether this was not part of the verse, but Prabhupada explains and in the purport, so that's why I also explained. But the point here is, all our Vedic Gurukuls was based on these 5 stages of development when they teach or decide what to teach at what stage to in Vedic Gurukuls. Okay, this was scientific. This is coming from our Upanishad itself. So in the Gurukuls, like at this age of 9 10 years, they will start this Vigyanmaya, which is this, they start talking about the science of soul, and super soul body, all these things starts happening, right? But I think first 3 stages, I think somewhere it's written as at the material level. There are 5 stages of Brahma. Out of these first 3, Annamaya, Pranmaya, and Gyanmaya, involve the field of activity of living. transcendental, all these fields is Supreme Lord, who is Anandamaya. So, yeah. Okay. So let's go to next verse. Where is the chat here? Is there a chat? Let me see. Where is the chat? Here, chat. Okay. So I posted something in chat. Just read that. Relationship of 5 above mentioned stages in terms of Kshetra and Kshetragna. So are you able to see the chat? So Kshetra means body, which is gross body, right? Which is basically Anandamaya and Pranamaya stage where we understand that food is required and life symptoms are also precious. Then subtle body is Gyanmaya, okay? And then Kshetragna includes, which is the soul, individual soul, which is Vijnanmaya, because at that stage, Vijnanmaya, one understand difference between soul and super soul. And the Anandamaya is the supreme soul. Just make a note somewhere. It may come, but this is for understanding. But yeah, that's that's about it. Like how these stages are related to Kshetra and Kshetragna is like this. Kshetra includes gross body, which is Anandamaya and Pranmaya, subtle body, Gyanmaya. Kshetragna includes individual soul, which is Vijnanmaya, and supreme soul, Anandamaya. Okay, that's all about this. Then go to verse 6, 7 together.
So, Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Yes,
So, gross body is Annamaya and Pranamaya, you're saying?
yes.
In the chat, it says Anandamaya and
Hmm?
in the chat it says Anandamaya and
And
sorry, Annamaya, where it comes from?
Annamaya. Sorry. I think it's called, should be Annamaya and Pranamaya.
Grass body Annamaya and Pranamaya, right?
Right. So let me change it. Yeah, you're right. This is Annamaya. How can I delete? Let me just delete this. Delete. And I'll paste it again. This should be Annamaya. Yeah. Yeah, now it's fine. Okay, 6 and 7 together. This who wants to do Sanskrit and this thing.
I can give it a shot, Prabhuji.
Yes.
6, 7. Mahabhutani ahankaro buddhir avyaktam eva cha indriyani dashikam cha dashikam cha pancha chendriya gocharaha icha dvesha sukham dukham sangatas drittahi eta chetram samasena savikaram udartam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The 5 great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, and the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and convictions. All these are considered, in summary, to be the field of activities and its interactions.
Go and read the purport. Yes, Prabhu.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. From all the authoritative statements of the great sages, the Vedic hymns, and the aphorisms of the Vedanta Sutra, the components of this world can be understood as follows. First, there are earth, water, fire, air, and ether. These are the five great elements, Mahabhuta. Then there are false ego, intelligence, and the unmanifested stage of the three modes of nature. Then there are five senses for acquiring knowledge, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Then five working senses, voice, legs, hands, anus, and genitals. Then above these senses there is the mind, which is within and which can be called the sense within. Therefore, including the mind, there are 11 senses altogether. Then there are five objects of the senses: smell, taste, form, touch, and sound. Now the aggregate of these 24 elements is called the field of activity. If one makes an analytical study of these 24 subjects, then he can very well understand the field of activity. Then there are desire, hatred, happiness, and distress, which are interactions, representations of the five great elements in the gross body. The living symptoms, represented by consciousness and conviction, are the manifestation of the subtle body, mind, ego, and intelligence. These subtle elements are included within the field of activities. The five great elements are a gross representation of the false ego, which in turn represents the primal stage of false ego, technically called the materialistic conception, or tamasa buddhi, intelligence and ignorance. This, further, represents the unmanifested stage of the three modes of material nature. The unmanifested modes of material nature are called pradhana. One who desires to know the 24 elements in detail, along with their interactions, should study the philosophy in more detail. In Bhagavad Gita, a summary is only given. The body is a representation of all these factors, and there are changes of the body, which are 6 in number. The body is born, it grows, it stays, it produces byproducts. Then it begins to decay, and at the very last stage, it vanishes. Therefore, the field is a non-permanent material thing. However, the Kshetragna, the knower of the field, its proprietor, is different. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So basically, verse 6 and 7 talks about now the body. What are the constituent of this body? हमारा जो body है, how it is made up of. So there are 24 elements, right? Which is called the body, 24 elements. So I'm just seeing your close book assessment. No, not what is this? Purva Swadhyay, and it says list the 24 components of the world. So maybe you need to write it down and just remember. This is one of the questions. So the 24 first 5 elements are which is body is made up of 5 gross elements. Easy to know, right? Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. This is also known as Panch Mahabhut. Panch means 5, Mahabhut means the 5 great elements. The entire material creation is made up of only these 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Everything is made up of this. So our body is also made up of this. 70-80% is water, and then rest are all this. So 5. Then there are 5 Gyanendriya. Gyanendriya means the senses to acquire knowledge. Okay, which is our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. So these are the elements which we acquire knowledge. We need eyes to see things, ears to hear, nose to smell, tongue to taste, skin also. 5 known as Gyanendriya, knowledge acquiring senses. So five gross, five Gyanendriya. That is how you have to. I'm telling you in terms of how to remember this. You have to divide, otherwise it's difficult to remember. So that makes it 10. Okay. So and then there is five working senses, which is basically voice, legs, hands, anus, and genitals. These are our five senses, makes it 15. So five Gyanendriya and five working senses, which is known as Karmendriya. Karm means working, right? Karmendriya. Gyanendriya, five Gyanendriya, five Karmendriya. So we have 10 senses like that. Okay. And then it says there is a mind also. So including the mind, there is now 11 senses. 11 plus 5 becomes 16. Okay. And then further it talks about the interactions, which are desire, hatred, happiness, and distress, which are interactions, representation of five great elements of the body. So how many it becomes? 11, no, so 10, 11, 5. So 5 were gross, 5 were karmendriya, gyanendriya 15, mind becomes 16, plus 5, 21.
Prabhuji,
Hmm.
what is this mind, intelligence, and false ego? These are also the three shuttle. Um,
Yes. So mind, intelligence, false ego is our subtle body. So we have two bodies. So consider soul is covered with subtle body.
yes.
Subtle body is made up of mind, intelligence, false ego. These three things. And then gross body, subtle is something which we can't see. It's very सूक्ष्म शरीर बोलते हैं उसको हिंदी में सूक्ष्म शरीर subtle body. So when the soul leaves this body at the time of death, this body, gross body goes, it remains here, everyone can see. But something goes from this body, which is subtle body, which is a Sukshma Shari, it carries the soul and takes it into another body. So subtle body, our mind, intelligence, false ego remains same. It does not change when we change the body. That is, it carries the soul. तो बोलते हैं यमदूत sometimes they carry the soul out, they carry the soul through subtle body out and then takes it to Yamloka, and then it gets another body and it goes into the another body, subtle body. So that is also material.
And
Mind, intelligence, and false ego.
और इस 24 में ये तीनों भी काउंट होंगी?
हाँ, ये तीनों भी काउंट होंगी 24 में.
ओके प्रभु जी, थैंक यू.
ठीक है, तो ये भी है. I think somewhere else also this thing was there. I think somewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam also in Canto 3, this 24 elements are there. And then it talks about in the last paragraph, the 6 vikar. Vikar means transformations. 6 transformations which this body goes through. That body is born, then it grows, right? It becomes, grows, then it stays, then it creates byproduct. Byproduct meaning it creates more body, like we give birth to a child, right? That is the byproduct of this body. Then it starts to begin to decay at the old age, and then finally it vanishes. So these are the 6 vikars, also known as Sanskrit Shad Vikar. Any living entity which has these 6 transformations falls into the Jiva category. He is the living entity. That is the definition of Jiva. Anyone who has these 6 transformations is called, falls under the Jiva. Technical term for Jiva is this thing. So these 6 vikars are also found in Brahma, in small ant, and humans, and all animals and plants and everyone. And you can see everything, it is born. Even a small plant is born, then it grows, it stays for some time, then it gives byproduct in terms of flowers and all that. And then it begins to decay and finally vanishes. Plant also goes through this 6 transformation. We also go through, animal also go through. So the word is used as vikaram in the Sanskrit. Okay, so just remember your lifespan. Like you, when we were a child, small, when we were born, then we grew in a uh, as a child. Okay, then we stays meaning we stays as it is, like, and then we give byproduct in terms of offsprings, gives us birth to uh, daughter or sons, that is byproduct. Then after the age of 55, 60, it starts to begin to decay, and at the last stage it vanishes. These are the six transformations. So this is the body, but then the last point Prabhupada says, Kshetragna, which is the soul, is different. He's a knower of the body, though he's not, he's the proprietor, so he's different from this. So in this verse, basically, the key thing is to know the 24 elements of this body and to know the six transformations of this body. Okay. And there is another term called pradhan, which is called here as unmanifested. So pradhan is something which is unmanifested, means which does not have, which has not manifested. So pradhan, somewhere it's, I saw the mention of pradhan.
It's after you describe the five great elements of gross representation of the false ego, right at the end. The
Yeah.
unmanifested modes of material nature are called
So
pradhan.
pradhan basically means the unmanifested three modes, like pradhan. This is at the beginning of creation, there is a pradhan. Like it's very difficult, little bit difficult to explain. I think this pradhan is greatly explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. What it is just the unmanifested form of these three modes of nature. That is what is pradhan. And then there is a whole sequence in mentioned in Bhagavatam. Then Mahavishnu, he puts his glance on the material nature, he glances the material nature, and then he impregnates the material nature with all the living entities. All living entities comes, and that's how the creation starts. So the unmanifested form of that is called Pradhan. Just think that's for now. I think that's good enough. It's written. If someone asks one-liner definition, unmanifested modes of material nature are called Pradhan. That's there on 537 page. On the last line of the paragraph, unmanifested modes of material nature are called pradhan.
प्रभु जी,
Yes, Mataji.
बट ये 24 एलिमेंट्स तो नहीं है, ये 23 है। 24th कौन सा है?
So let's count again. तो 23 कौन-कौन से हुए?
23 is earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And after that, mind, intelligence, and false ego.
8
Then
हो गए.
eyes, ear, nose, tongue, and skin. After that, voice, leg, hands, anus, and genitals.
कितने हो गए अभी? How many? अभी 5 + 3 8 13 18 हो गए.
And there is mind again, but we already count the mind.
Right.
But then again, it's sense smell, taste, form, touch, and sound. So these are 23. I don't know.
Yes, 18 + 5 23. And then there is one more. Let me just think. Let me see here. Oh, I remember.
प्रभु जी माइंड काउंट कर लिया था, माइंड शायद रह गया.
माइंड इंटेलिजेंस फॉल्स ईगो में कर लिया था.
Okay.
Let me just look it up.
Prabhuji, what it's saying is it's also considering the mind as a sense, the sense within. They're saying 11 senses altogether, in other words.
Oh, mind is counted twice?
Yeah. Then there's a false ego, intelligence, right?
Right.
False ego, intelligence, and the unmanifested stage of the three modes within the five senses, acquiring knowledge, and the five senses, the working knowledge, and above the senses, there is the mind. which is within, and which can be called the sense.
Oh, okay. No, mind is counted once. So Pradhan is the 24th, Mataji. Unmanifested, that Pradhan which was saying unmanifested.
Okay, Prabhuji.
So I found a very nice thing on internet. Let me paste a picture. That way you remember. Uh, Chat में. It's not coming as natural. Let me do one thing. Pradhan also unmanifested. That is also part of this thing. See, I posted a picture.
Okay, Prabhu.
Let me share my screen. Let's go through that one more time so that it remains in our thing. Okay. Okay, so the way to remember is this one. So first let's start with body. So first five gross elements, which body is made of earth, water, fire, air, ether. Okay, then three subtle elements, false ego, intelligence, mind. And now five sense objects, which is knowledge acquiring senses, also known as Jnana sound, touch, sight, taste, smell. Then five, no, sorry, this is sense object, sorry. This is the five knowledge acquiring senses: ear, skin, eye, tongue, nose. Working senses, voice, legs, arm, reproductive, evacuating organs. And sense objects, sound, touch, sight, taste, smell. So ये 20 बन जाते हैं. 3 is this one, subtle element, and Pradhan is 24. ये 24 elements of Sankhya philosophy. Okay, so yes, you can remember like this. 5 के pairs में remember कर सकते हैं, and then 3 is subtle, and then 24th is Pradhan.
Okay.
Okay. This is your question number 3 in that course Swadhyay. Okay, let's go to verse number 8 to 12 together. They are all combined together. So, oh my, this is big one. Okay, let's read. Who wants to volunteer for this one? सबने एक बार पढ़ लिया?
I am left, but I cannot read the Sanskrit.
Okay, let me read the Sanskrit and read the English. अमानित्वम अदम्भित्वम अहिंसा शांति आर्जवम आचार्योपासनम शौचम स्थैर्यम आत्मविनिग्रह इंद्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम अहंकार एव च जन्म मृत्यु जरा व्याधि दुःखदोषानुदर्शनम् असक्तिर्नाभिस्वनङ्गाः पुत्रदाराग्रहादिषु नित्यं च समाश्चित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्टोपपापातिषु मयि चनन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्याभिचारिणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् अरतिर्जन संसदि अध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वं तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानम् इति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यद् अन्यथा. Translation.
Translation: humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual masters, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and rest, even mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass, mass of people accepting the importance of self-realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be the knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. So, purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Just hold,
This,
hold. Just wait 1 second. So very big purport. Oh, yeah. So these are the 20 elements of knowledge. What is knowledge? These are 20 elements of knowledge. Because why it's knowledge? Because Krishna is declaring that this is knowledge. And he says, whatever is beyond these 20 elements, this is simply ignorance. So these 20 items or elements is knowledge. Because Krishna asked, what are the object of knowledge? What is knowledge? All these questions he asked, right? So now Arjun, Lord Krishna is explaining what is knowledge. Okay, so these are all, the quality. Some of them are qualities like humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, all this cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation, all that. So, so cultivation of these qualities is the real method of acquiring knowledge. That is the main theme for this verses 8 to 12. Okay, now we can read the purport.
okay. This process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent man as being the interaction of the field of activity, but actually, this is the real process of knowledge. If one accepts this process, then the possibility of approaching the absolute truth exists. This is not the interaction of the 24 elements as described before. This is actually the means to get out of the entanglement of those elements. The embodied soul is entrapped by the body, which is a casing made of the 24 elements, and the process of knowledge as described here is the means to get out of it. Of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 11th verse. My Chanaya Yoginam Bhaktir Avyabhicharini. The process of knowledge terminates is unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. So, if one doesn't approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. But if one takes to the devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, यशस्ति भक्तिर्भवते अकिंचन सर्वैर्गुणाः तत्र शश्मते सुरः. All the good qualities of knowledge develop in one who has attained the stage of devotional service. The principle of accepting a spiritual master, as mentioned in the 8 words, is essential. Even for one who takes to the devotional service is the most important. Transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, clearly states here that this process of knowledge is the actual path. Anything speculated beyond this is nonsense.
Just hold
As
it.
for the
Just hold.
okay,
Okay, so this verse talks about 20 items or 20 elements of knowledge. And Krishna says, this is the knowledge, anything beyond this is simply a waste of time. It's ignorance. Okay. Now, out of 20 elements, the most important is the devotional service, unalloyed devotional service to me. And Prabhupada says, this is the most important. Because if you have all other 19, if you don't have, it's again a waste. But if you have this one item, which is unalloyed devotion service, then all other 19 qualities will automatically develop, which means the devotee will automatically get all the 19 qualities just by practicing devotional service. So that is one of the most important. And to get the devotional service, there is one more, which is approaching a bona fide spiritual master. That is important. So bhakti starts when one approaches a bona fide spiritual master and surrenders to him. Okay, so that is again what do you call essential thing to do. So approaching a bona fide spiritual master and then practicing devotional service, all the good qualities of knowledge develop in one who has attained this stage of devotional service. So all other qualities, humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, you just take a topmost devotee, like pure devotee, like consider Srila Prabhupada, he will have all these 19 qualities. Take Rupa Goswami, he will have all these
Something went
19
wrong.
qualities.
Try
right?
again in a few seconds.
So that is the main thing. And one key thing here is, which Prabhupada says in the purport, then we can only approach, or we can approach the absolute truth, which is Lord Krishna, if we have all these 20. And amongst that, these two are important. Okay, next, let's go and analyze one by one. Now, we have 25 minutes, so let's spend like next 25 minutes on this. So let's first talk about humility. So go on, read.
As for the knowledge outlined here, the term may be analyzed as follows. Humility means that one shouldn't be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others.
Underline
The
this,
material
the definition of humility. Sometimes people ask, what is humility? This is humility. Okay, go on.
There was
the
a glitch.
material
Try
the
again in a few
material
seconds.
the material conception of life makes
The
us
mic's
very
off.
eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge who knows that he is not this body, anything honor or dishonor pertaining to this body is useless. One shouldn't be hankering after this material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently, sometimes it is found that without understanding the principles of religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following religious principles and then wants to advertise himself as the religious mentor. As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a test to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items. Non-violence is
Hold on,
generally
hold on. Let's discuss humility first. Otherwise, very. So all of you understand, right? Humility. Humility is that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others for anything. If you do very good job, good work, like not that's the in even in Shastakam, and this is the criteria also to become kirtaniya, like to chant the names of the Lord continuously. Amanina mana dena kirtaniya sadahari, meaning don't expect the respect for yourself, but give all respect to others. If one acquires that state of mind or consciousness, then he can be the Kirtanya Sadahari, means he can chant the names of Hari all the times. Sadahari means every time. So why this is important, like humility, everyone here is after getting the name and fame. I think that is one of our, what you call the pride, because there is something called false ego, right? It strengthens the false ego when someone uh, honors us, or we take pride in this actually thickens our false ego. Our false ego gets increased further. But the process of devotional service is to lessen the false ego. So that's why humility and pridelessness are key items. Understand this point. Everyone is here after the honor or dishonor or honor, but one should not be hankering after this material deception. Like sometimes people want to donate a big amount for religious things, but they want their name to be mentioned, or their names to be mentioned outside the temple or outside the hospital, right? You see so many hospitals, even India here, where someone who is a big donor have their name there, right? So this is basically asking for honor. So it defeats the purpose of donation or doing that act, because you are asking something in return. And this is a hindrance in the path of spiritual advancement. So that's why Prabhupada says one should have a test to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items, how far we are progressing. When are we still want people to honor us, right? Or are we okay if nobody honors us? So the advanced devotee will not care for this honor, and that is what humility means. Humility also means that we should understand that we are subordinate and we have problems, we have defects, and we are ready to be corrected by others. That is also humility. Someone who may think that I am perfect and I'm perfect just because I have X number of experience here or I am older is not a sign of humility. So at every stage, one should think that he's prone to make mistakes, and if someone corrects that mistake, he should take in the right spirit and not feel dejected or feel oh, I am let's say I'm so old, and like even if a person younger to us corrects us, and if it is valid, we should accept in a right mood. So this is one of the key reasons, I would say, of also having a cordial relationship between us, devotees, and also other living entities. Like if you don't care for honor and dishonor, and don't care for others to honor you, then you will never get into the problem with anyone else. Okay. The main reason why the problem happens in the relationship is about this honor and dishonor, because we care for that. The moment we don't care, this becomes immaterial. So, okay. I hope that everyone understands humility and pridelessness. These are the two important items. Okay, next go to non-violence.
Non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body, but actually non-violence means not to put others in distress.
Just hold
People
here.
in
So just mark this also. Non-violence, Prabhupada says, means not to put others into distress. So if by our words or actions we are putting other people to distress, we are causing non-violence. Okay. So we should speak truth, but truth should be spoken in a way that it should not agitate others. Agitate others means it should not create agitation in others. So it should be spoken in a palatable way. That is again an art, but we as a devotee should learn this art and practice this art. Okay, so it just simply doesn't mean to kill. Non-violence also means to put others into distress. Okay, go on.
People in general are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life, and they perpetually suffer material pains. So, unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to the people so that they become enlightened and leave this material entanglement. That is non-violence.
Yes, so Prabhupada says one who distributes this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to others, uh, that is non-violence. Okay, so that is what practicing non-violence is, and not putting people into distress. Can be anyone, by our actions or by our voice. Okay, so if that is what non-violence is. Okay, go on. Next, tolerance.
Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others.
So how many of you we can bear this? If one can, I will say, like if one can follow this tolerance, there will not be any problem anywhere in our life, either materially or spiritually, with anyone. Okay, so think about these higher principles and try to put it in our life. Like we get upset by someone saying something to us, but tolerance is something to bear insult and dishonor and not to retaliate back. The moment you retaliate back, I'll tell you the very thing, the how the great people or great devotees think. So whenever they get insulted or get dishonor, they think they don't blame the person who is doing that. They think why Lord has done this thing to me, not in terms of bad thing. They say, wow, they think like कि भगवान हमें कुछ सिखाना चाह रहा है by doing this person, through this person. Like Lord Krishna is trying to teach us something through the medium of this person, and that's why we got this insult and dishonor. And other thing is that it is our past karma. Okay, because of our past karma, we may have been destined to be having one accident or a big injury. And Lord Krishna is so kind that instead of giving us that big karma through which we may be lying on the bed, he sent someone, and that person insulted us and neutralizes that bad karma. So in a way is a blessing in disguise, because we should be thankful to that person that he nullifies our previous bad karmas by saying bad words to us or insulting us or dishonoring us. These are the two things which are how the great devotees or advanced devotees think or should think. Okay, because whenever anyone is insulting us or dishonoring us, he's actually, we are getting the reactions of our past karmas. He's taking away, he's burning our past karmas, bad ones. Okay, so, and we should not retaliate back. We should not, because doing that, two things will happen. We create a new karma for ourselves, right? And which we may have to suffer in future life. That karma can bind us to the material world just by that karma. If we leave this world having grudge for someone, and then we will definitely meet that person again in the next life. We have to take birth again to settle score with that person in next life. So just for a higher purpose of devotional service and not to come back, we should let go of these smaller things of having, oh, this person told said this to me, and having a grudge throughout his life and never speak to that person. No. Okay. And one of the easiest things, practical things to do would be sometimes just, if you get into the situation where someone is accusing you of something which you think you have not done, just say sorry and move on. The simple word of saying sorry will calm down the other person, cool down that person, and that things would be settled at that moment only. It's because of our false ego, and we try to justify and go on and on and on and create problems. Okay. So again, tolerance means one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. Next, go on.
If one is engaged in the advancement of spiritual knowledge, then there will be so many insults and so much dishonor from others. This is expected because material nature is so constituted. Even a boy like Prahlad, who is 5 years old, was engaged in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, was endangered when his father became astonistic to his devotion. The father tried to kill him in so many ways, but Prahlada tolerated him. So there may be many impediments to making advancement in spiritual knowledge, but we should be tolerant and continue our progress with determination.
Okay. So tolerance, I think everyone understood the point. What is tolerance? Tolerance also means not just bearing the insult and dishonor, bearing the calamities of nature or bearing the ups and downs in the life. That is also tolerance. One should be equipoised when the bad times comes, and one should not be go on a like, oh, when the good times comes, people just go like become very overjoyed and this that, and when bad times comes, they go completely down. We should be equipoised in both, because these are, like Krishna says, like a summer and winter season. They will come and they will go. Nobody should, like a sober person is one who can bear both with same and not get affected. An example of this is Lord shows by his own example, Lord Ram, right? We see Lord Ram, just a day before he was getting coronated as the king of Ayodhya, he was okay. And next day, he was told to go to the forest for 14 years. And believe, like it's mentioned, he did not even have a iota of grudge or repent or any bad feelings towards his mother, towards anyone. He just left out of his duty. So Lord is showing by his example about the tolerance, and he tolerated. And then Mother Sita also went, Lakshman also went. they don't have to. Like if he could have just said, I don't want to go, he would not have. And then they were told to take shortcuts, but he did not took those shortcuts also. And anyway, that was Leela of Bhagwan. But that is what tolerance is, to bear the hardships in the life, and then take it in a right spirit. Like for us, it would be, if hardships comes, then don't blame the Lord like it's because of our past karmas, whatever hardship we get, and just move on. Okay, simplicity. Next is the simplicity. Again, another item.
Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be straightforward and he can disclose the real truth even to the enemy. As for acceptance of the spiritual master, that is essential because without the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress in spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humility and offer him all services so that he will be pleased to bestow his blessings upon the disciple. Because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, if he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advance without the disciples following the regulative principles, or the regulative principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation.
So I don't need to just say simplicity means putting your point straightforward and disclose the truth. But I would say like in a palatable way. Like there is two ways. Someone has done wrong. You can say in a palatable way, in a polite way. And there is another way, in a rude way also, you can say. So you are saying truth in both ways, but in one you are agitating the other person, and in other way you are not agitating the other person. So the quality of a devotee is he should say the truth, but say in a way that it does not agitate other. That is simplicity, saying the truth in a straightforward way, without diplomacy, and acceptance of spiritual master, and that is key item for practicing devotional service without approaching spiritual master. As I mentioned, the devotional service does not start. Okay, next, cleanliness.
Cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. External cleanliness means taking a bath, but for the internal cleanliness, one has to think of Krishna always and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This process cleans the accumulated dust of past karma from the mind.
Just hold here. So cleanliness, two types. We all know external, internal. For external cleanliness, we take bath. Internal, we have to chant. Now, unfortunately, many of us, or many of even amongst devotees, don't know about external cleanliness also properly, because due to the influence of time and Western civilization, Western influence, this has gone. The key thing is whenever you go to a washroom, okay, then you have to take a bath. That is essential. Even in ISKCON, I think this is taught only when one's become second initiated Brahmin. Brahmins, it's very essential. Even for a normal person, it's essential. You cannot, otherwise you will be in unclean state till you did not have taken a bath after going to a washroom. So that is very much essential. And um, and whatever you, like in an unclean state, if whatever you touches also becomes unclean. So that is the key thing. The rule is would be to, if you go to a washroom, before coming out, you have to take a bath.
You have to wash your gates.
Huh? Huh?
You have to wash your gates, the 9 gates.
Right. Yeah, you have to take a bath. This is cleanliness. And in our 40, 50 years back, this used to be practiced in all the families. But now with the modern this thing, people are not taking bath for days. I was surprised, not even days. Like they just get up in the morning, like I'm talking about normal people, take breakfast, do their thing, go out also without taking bath, come back, sleep. Just like this is like a animal life. Animals are also like no difference. Animal also Even animals are better. They also go and take a dip somewhere wherever they find water. This is worth an animal. So Pashu Achar, right? So with the problems in the society are happening because of this thing only. Like why young children are getting corrupted, because they have unclean. They are not clean, so how can they get some? Their minds are getting polluted because they are externally not clean. तो उनकी बुद्धि भी unclean होती जा रही है. So external cleanliness is very, very important. Every day morning one should take bath, at least minimum one, and then whenever we go to washroom, take bath. Okay, cleanliness done. Internal we know chanting the Hare Krishna mantra does the internal purification, and yeah, steadfast, steadiness.
Steadiness means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Without such determination, one cannot make tangible progress. And self-control means that one shouldn't accept anything which is detrimental to the path of spiritual progress. One should become accustomed, accustomed to this and reject anything which is against the path of spiritual progress. This is real renunciation. The senses are so strong that they are always anxious to have sense gratification. One should not cater to these demands which are not necessary. These senses should only be gratified to keep the body fit so that one can discharge his duty in advancing in spiritual life. The most important and uncontrollable sense is the tongue. If one can control the tongue, then there is a possibility of controlling the other senses. The function of the tongue is to taste and to vibrate. Therefore, by systematic regulation, the tongue should always be engaged in tasting the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna. As far as the eyes are concerned, they should not be allowed to see anything but the beautiful form of Krishna. That will control the eyes. Similarly, the ear should engage in hearing about Krishna and the nose in smelling the flower offered to Krishna. This is the process of devotional service, and it is understood here that Bhagavad Gita is simply expounding the science of devotional service. Devotional service is the main and sole objective. Unintelligent commentators on the Bhagavad Gita try to divert the mind of the reader to other subjects, but there is no other subject in Bhagavad Gita than devotional service.
Yes. So in this, I think few points are done. Steadiness means determined to make progress in spiritual life, because unless we are not steady, I think the progress would be there, but very slow. So we should be determined to make progress in spiritual life. So otherwise, as I mentioned, the progress will not be tangible. Like if we keep it in autopilot mode, okay, chanting ठीक है चल रहा है नहीं चल रहा है पढ़ना है को नहीं हो रहा है, like autopilot mode, then it would not be. We have to make an effort from our side, and that is what means determination. Self-control means to reject what is unfavorable and to accept what is favorable for spiritual advancement. So reject everything which is unfavorable and accept. That is self-control. Renunciation of sense objects. It's basically instead of engaging our senses in for catering to unnecessary demands, we should engage those in the devotional service. That is the only way. Otherwise, senses are so strong they will drag you away. Okay, next is the false ego. So false ego, let's read. Absence of false ego.
False ego. False ego means accepting this body as oneself. One who understands that he is not his body and is spirit soul, he comes to his real ego. Ego is there. False ego is condemned, but not real ego.
Just hold
In
here.
this,
Let me explain. So there is real ego. Real ego is good. False ego is bad. We all have false ego. That is why we are in material world. When one goes to spiritual world, he has real ego. Okay. False ego basically means accepting this body as oneself. Theoretically, we understood that this body is not me, I am soul. But when we act we again act on a bodily platform. That is the problem, and that is what is false ego is, right? So few examples I could give which illustrate this. Facebook and all these social platforms are actually making us increase our false ego. Why? Because people wants to look good and they wants to post their pictures on Facebook, right? This is a sign of false ego. Why? Because we are again considering this body as ourselves and then putting that picture and wants people to appreciate. So in a way, this is kind of increasing that false ego. When one understands that he's not his body, so what is the use? Like, we have to maintain this body, that is okay. But anyway, body, we saw the 6th transformation. We should focus on how I can beautify my soul. And that is completely missing in today's society. And that is what is the false ego about. Real ego is that we do everything to please the Supreme Lord. We understand our position. The real ego means when understand the position that I am soul and I am the subservient to super soul, that Jivera Swarup Hoye Nitya Krishna Das, that I am the eternal servant of Lord Krishna. So when one acts in that consciousness, that is the real ego. So before now talking about when, let's say, a perfect devotee, when he becomes eligible to go to the spiritual world, his false ego remains here, meaning his subtle body, which is made up of mind, intelligence, false ego, dissolves. And he gets his spiritual body, which has the real ego. Okay. I think we have to stop here. It's 3. And I'll just ask quickly before we go, should we want to take this on Wednesday, or should we you're okay, 7 a.m. 7 p.m. is okay Wednesday, maybe 7 to 8 or 8:30, whatever works, we can continue.
Yeah, 7:30 to 8:30 is okay. Good.
Okay.
I'd say 8 to 9.
Hmm?
Yeah, as Wednesday, okay, Prabhu, after 7:30.
Wednesday is okay? Okay. So then we will do like this only 2 hours like this, and then 1.5 hours on that way we can cover, and then also you will have continuity and everything. So let's meet on Wednesday and we resume from next part, which is after false ego comes, whatever comes next, even-mindedness, detachment, all these things. Okay. So just stop here at false ego. So we covered till false ego, and from further we discuss in next class, Wednesday, because it's a big purpose. I knew it's a big, so we have to continue. But this is again important. All these items to know, not just for exam, not for exam, but for know in reality. This is what real knowledge is. If one does not know and how to apply this, then no point of studying Bhagavad Gita. Okay, and Lord Krishna gets attracted one who has these qualities. If you see in the case of Ram, Leela, and Lord Krishna's, whoever Lord Krishna, all his devotees, like in Ram Leela, Shabri, Mother Shabri, and then all these people, they were born in out of the caste, like lower caste, like, but they have all these qualities. That's why they were considered as the great devotees of the Lord. So we stop here and then resume on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Krishna Kripa Sindhu Dev Jai
Devaji.
Ram Parvati Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.